Welcome to the Female Disruptors session. This track is the She Means Business track. This actual session is the digital marketing that actually works. My name is Rachel and I will be your moderator. A few words about my background. I am the VP of Consumer Growth at Trader Interactive. In my past, I've been at AOL, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, been in digital marketing for coming up on 18 years now. And I've known Krista for a good chunk of that, probably a couple of lifetimes. Yeah. So Krista is going to be speaking on digital marketing that actually works. And yeah, Krista, whatever you'd like to start out with.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the intro and thank you so much for having me. And it's true, Rachel and I go way back through all of these search conferences and things like that. And what's interesting that I am going to share as a part of my presentation is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I think we feel this pressure and this idea in digital that like things are always changing and how do you stay on top of it? But, you know, when I reflect back, and Rachel, it's probably similar to you, like the basic things and strategies that work for a business, those are really consistent and sustainable. You know, if you had asked me in 2007 when Twitter launched how to grow on Twitter, I would tell you the basic same things that I would tell you now. Maybe not for Twitter, right? Bad example. But for the most part, these networks are pretty persistent in how they work because the consistent factor is the humans you're trying to reach. And I think sometimes in digital marketing, it's so easy to get so caught up in the technologies that we forget about the fact that it's the humans that we're trying to reach. And they can be a little bit more persistent than we like to believe. So here's what I have in store for you all today. I'm going to talk to you about the trends that are kind of coming up and that people are talking about this year. And what I want to do is talk about what actually works and help you maybe get some focus. Because what I see is that it's really easy to get distracted by shiny object syndrome. I have clients already who are calling me saying, hey, Krista, should we be using Mastodon? I'm like, you know, look, your YouTube channel sucks and we know that could work for you. Why would you not disproportionately invest in the areas that disproportionately work, right? And so one of the things that I want to talk to you about with these trends is like, really, where are they at and how should you be thinking about them? Because one of the traits that I think all of us marketers have in common is we like to create. And that's a blessing and a curse, right? It leads to creativity and all sorts of great ideas, but it often also leads to us chasing after things that maybe aren't the best use of our time and budget to drive return on investment right now. So I'm excited to talk to you about this stuff today. For those of you who don't know me, similar to Rachel, I've been in this industry for quite a long time. I've written 6 books on the topic, including the first textbook on social media. And I have the pleasure of working with all sorts of great clients all over the world. Now, one of the things, if any of you follow me or know about me, I actually hate the idea that every year we have to talk about trends. And the reason is not just because I'm becoming a grumpy old person, that separately could be true, but the reason I injured my wrist skateboarding, so I'm like officially in old person territory. But the reason that I don't really like the idea of digital trends, even though I participate in these roundups all the time, is that these are not really the things that are most likely to grow your business in the year ahead. It's solid strategy and consistent best-in-class execution on whatever platforms you can dominate and own. So even though I am going to talk about shiny new objects because this is about disruption and we do want to get some creative energy, what I think is important to keep in mind is even though a lot of this technology is exciting, where does it really fit into your business, your ROI, and your marketing objectives? So as we look at digital broadly, there's never been a better time to be in digital marketing or to be a disruptor in digital. And the reason is that digital is disproportionately accounting for more and more percentage of our marketing budgets. Digital has already surpassed 50% of marketing budgets, but it's getting even bigger. Even for B2B, a study I read recently said that 25% of all B2B advertising dollars will be spent on LinkedIn. Think about that, 25% of all B2B advertising on just LinkedIn. And it's not because of some accidents, because this is where results are driven, right? This is what works. If you have any people under 20 in your lives, you know they're on their phones, they don't watch TV. I have really young kids. We were staying in a hotel and there was like native television and they started screaming because they're like, the TV's broken. It won't stop playing this other stuff. I'm like, oh, how cute. Welcome to ads. These are television ads. Like a 7-year-old has never seen a television ad. Let that sink in for a minute. So digital is only growing in importance, right? If you're thinking about, you know, a lot of people talk about future-proofing your strategies. Wayne Gretzky, I'm Canadian, so I, of course, have to quote a famous Canadian, but he said, people said, how do you become such a great hockey player? He said, I skate to where the puck is going and not where it has been. And so in that respect, there has never been a better time to be in digital because the spending is only growing considerably. And what's interesting about it is that while the spending is up here, I would say the knowledge and skills and great executions are down here. So we have a big gap in terms of where money is flowing out, but we don't have that same institutional knowledge to drive return on investment that other channels have. Think about television. Why does no one talk about the ROI of TV? If you know how they measure TV, it's literally they have boxes on like 1,000 TVs in America that tell you who watches what. That's an insane way to measure something, but TV's been around for 80 years. So we're all bought into that because it's an 80-year-old channel. Digital, really, in terms of mass adoption, I would say we're at under 20 years, and it's all dynamic and changing. So we don't have that institutional knowledge and expertise, which means for those of you who are on the leading edge, there's never been a better time to be in your position. So I want to talk about some of the biggest trends that we're looking at as the year comes ahead. Obviously, we don't have time to dive deep into any of these topics, and there's speakers at this event that are going to dive deep into a lot of these and give you some ideas. What I want to share with you is a little bit about what each of these is and like how it could realistically fit in your marketing programs today or in the year ahead. So with that, let's dive in. And the first thing I want to talk about is machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now, if we're talking about like hot or not, how important is this? Machine learning and artificial intelligence, very important to your business. The reason for this is what we're seeing in every single channel of digital marketing is that there's math and algorithms that are deciding what people see and essentially optimizing the viewability of your marketing based on how good it is. Now, we're used to this in social media and search engine optimization, but we also see it in advertising, in email, everywhere. What's essentially happening is robots or algorithms are looking at human behavior and using that to decide who sees your stuff. Even if you run an ad, if your ad sucks and is deemed to be less relevant or have lower user value, you pay more money. So one of the biggest implications of the machine learning and artificial intelligence is that as marketers, we can't just take this checkbox mentality. Yep, I sent an email this week. We need to think about the experience and the quality because that links to the impact. Think about that, right? The experience and the quality links to the impact. So if I send a horrible email, it's going to get flagged as spam, or it's going to go in the promotional inbox, or it's going to be undelivered. I can check the box, say I sent my email this week, but if I don't focus on customer value, that email doesn't get seen by everyone. And the same is true again of search engine optimization, of social media, of your digital ads, everything you're doing. We need to focus more on experience and providing value to our audience. And that's how you dominate algorithms. You know, it's funny with search engine optimization. I'm not one of these overly technical people, Rachel, you probably are and know all these people, but they're like in the weeds, right? And that stuff matters. I would never say it doesn't, but the one thing that's been consistent about SEO for 20 years is user value and user experience. And so as you think of future-proofing for algorithms, this is one of the best ways you can do it, is by really thinking about what is that user experience that you're providing, what's the value, and that will help you to future-proof with AI. Now, 2 weeks ago, I could not have mentioned ChatGPT and no one would have thought twice. Now, if I talk about AI and don't message it, people will think I'm like living in a hole in the ground somewhere. So ChatGPT has like suddenly emerged as the next best thing in the whole world. And Look, I think as marketers, if we think of where does this fit in terms of how you need to think about things, to me, this is an interesting area that you should definitely be looking at and paying attention to. This is not prime time. This is not the death of SEO, because look, the whole reason search engines exist is because people like to believe they make good decisions themselves, right? I don't just type in like, what's the best software, and whatever Google shows first, I just buy that one. Right? I read articles, I look at things, I want information to make my decisions. Now, some of that information could potentially come from ChatGPT, but it's not like a robot is going to make all the decisions in your life. Even if it could make them better than you, most people don't behave that way or trust robots and technology. So if you've not played around with ChatGPT, there's definitely a lot of cool applications and uses of it. I asked it to write some social media posts for me. And it was interesting. If you see the first one, you probably can't read it. It's maybe a little small, but it's like super long and not very good. Then I said, okay, make it shorter. Like no one wants to read. I didn't even want to read 3 paragraphs. So then it gave me something catchy and short. Then I said, could you make it sound like I wrote it? Well, it misunderstood that and it talked about me. Okay, fine. Then I said, could you make it sound fun? Could you make it sound more catchy? Now, I don't think any of these are ready for prime time if you read them, but I think there's clever bits in here that I wouldn't have come up with on my own, right? And so ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, I think this is something that's going to grow and grow and grow, but it's a question of the usefulness. One of the things that I do see as super useful, if you haven't seen them, is the AI generated images. I'm trying to think of what that website is that generates the images. I've been playing around with it. It's a little, you have to go into Discord. It's like a little tricky to use, but just look at AI generated images. You could Google it. There's a lot of sites doing it right now. That is something I can see working because frankly, most of the crappy stock photography businesses use is like boring and redundant and just sucks. If you look at the artwork generated from AI, it is stunning. So there's probably some uses for this stuff that you could look at. And what I would say with ChatGPT, I'm not rewriting my marketing plan around it. There's AI tools that have been around for a while to support content creation, like Jasper and things like that. But I definitely think you need to be experimenting here right now. You need to be looking at how it can improve some of your processes. And look at AI broadly. I use a tool on Zoom called otter.ai, and basically it's an AI like thing. It joins my Zoom meetings with me, and then it sends me notes. And it does a really good job of pulling out the questions and answers, and it saves me a lot of time. So when it comes to AI, I think what's important to keep in mind is don't look at technology for technology's sake, which we all do too often. Start experimenting with some of the uses of it. And I think you'll be amazed at how it can just help you, whether it's with your marketing, with your project management. One of my project managers uses it. She said, like, it's great because like I can put an article in and be like, could you send me a summary of this? And it summarizes meeting notes and stuff. So look for uses for this stuff. But I think, again, the technology is only as valuable as its uses. So this is definitely hot. There's definitely potential. Start playing with it if you want to sort of future-proof your marketing. The second big trend that you want to be thinking about, and this is where, I mentioned at the beginning, I hate trends. And so this is not a trend, right? I have trends and not a trend. This is not a trend, but something you should put more time into is getting your strategy more focused. And here's why. I worked this year on a consultative basis with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies, with some huge ad agencies, and with small brands. And the one thing that every single one of them has in common, their strategy is not articulated specifically enough to be easy to interpret into digital executions. Here's what I mean by that. If you come to me as an agency and say, hey, I want to sell tickets to female disruptors on Facebook. Awesome. Let's do some Facebook ads. Everything's sounding great. Well, guess what? The first question I have to answer is when I go to run a Facebook ad, this. What do you want to achieve? Well, I want to sell more tickets. Okay, great. What's the path to sell more tickets, right? Is it that you only need more awareness and awareness will drive registrations? Is it that you need to focus on like a brand equity or consideration if people only know that this is where the leading innovators are, or if they knew this one amazing speaker would be there? Or do you just need to tap them with a conversion, offering them a small offer? Most of us are good at articulating the business goals. I want to get more registrants. we're not good at translating that into a marketing objective. For all that AI that I talked about, that's deciding who sees your emails, how your Facebook campaigns are optimized, for all that stuff to work, you got to feed it the right inputs. And we need to get better at feeding inputs as marketers. So we need to start thinking more strategically in order to train the marketing that we want to work for us. Even think about those chat GPT questions I shared with you. If I had said, and give them a special offer, it would have been better, but I need in my brain to have that marketing objective worked out. So as we see all this artificial intelligence coming in, we need to feed this with in-depth strategic thinking that frankly, we didn't have to do with traditional marketing. And the need for this is only growing as machine learning and artificial intelligence are taking hold of marketers. So spend more time really being thoughtful in your strategies so that you can make more off of the robots or the artificial intelligence that's doing all the work for you. So try and get as much focus as you can in order to take advantage of that. Now, the next trend that, like, if I didn't talk about this again, I feel like someone would like slap me in the face, the metaverse. So the metaverse started trending when Facebook changed their name to Meta, which is, I think, over a year ago now. It feels like lifetimes ago. But that's when people really started talking about it, right? And I did a workshop actually just last week. I did a seminar on the metaverse and Web3. And what really makes these hard to explain to people is that they're kind of like collections of ideas and experiences. So one of the reasons a lot of people struggle when you say like, well, what really is the metaverse, is that the metaverse really is a type of experience that you can have. And you can see in this definition, it says it's an experience on the internet that's persistent, immersive, 3D, and virtual. Well, this type of experience could be defined by a video game you're playing. It could be defined in a workout app. It could be defined in a virtual space. It could be defined by some sort of augmented reality experience. So it's almost like if you could go in a time machine, like, I don't know when the internet became popular, but before people knew what the internet was, and somebody was like, well, what's the internet? And you're like, well, it's like technology that lets you do things like you could send messages to someone, or you could put up a website with information, or you could talk to other people, right? That's kind of the metaverse. It's an idea about platforms that we could use. And it's not really new. For those of us who are like old and geeky in the tech space, Second Life was a metaverse experience. And that was like 20 years ago, I think now. It was a long time ago when Second Life took off. Second Life became so big that it was featured in an episode of The Office, for those of you who watch it. Dwight Schrute had a person in Second Life who, not surprisingly, was also a paper salesperson. Anyways, so this is not necessarily a new idea. Some of the most persistent and common metaverse applications right now are Roblox and Minecraft, which have also been around for ages. What it is really, though, as we start thinking about it, is that we're trying to create more immersive experiences. And if you think about what truly is the metaverse and why is everyone talking about it, it's because most technology thinkers would say that the metaverse, which is powered by Web3 technologies, is going to be a future iteration of the internet, right? So the internet we use now, it's mostly on a screen, it's read write. Now we're going to look at more experiential things that we can submerge ourselves in. And most people would say that's kind of the future of the internet. And we see brands participating here. Ironically, this Walmart example that has recently surfaced, and people are like, this is how Walmart envisions shopping in the metaverse. No, this was a pilot from 2017 that Walmart didn't launch because nobody wants to walk through pretend Walmart aisles in a VR headset, right? Anyways, there's all these ideas, all these brands, but the truth of the matter is that this is early stage technology. If you look at almost anyone talking about the metaverse and what it is, all of the ideas they describe literally don't exist yet and can't be done yet. If you want to get a feel for where we're really at with metaverse, the big announcement Meta had on this 3 months ago was that they could make legs. They could make legs. That was breaking news. Mark Zuckerberg had legs in the metaverse. But guess what? They didn't even work yet and no one can get legs except this little test version of him having legs. That's where we're at. So I'm not trying to say it's not important. I'm sure there's speakers at this event who are going to give you this world of possibilities. And it's exciting, and it's definitely the future. But what should you be thinking about now and doing now if you're looking at ROI for your marketing and for your business? Not invest a bunch of money in the metaverse, right? All these big brands that are investing, these are test and learn budgets, right? They want to be innovative. They want to get headlines. They're willing to risk some dollars to get that experience. Most of us don't have that luxury. So what you want to do is start looking for opportunities in your industry. Who in your space is participating here? What are they doing? Start exploring some of the platforms. One of the biggest problems is a lot of businesses that will tell me, oh, we're working on something for the metaverse. I'll say, well, what platform? And they're like, what do you mean? It's not like the internet where like anyone can make a website. It's like these different applications that, by the way, don't even speak to each other yet. So this is still early stage. And even if you look at Meta has a great Coursera course for free on metaverse. It's a 6-week course, completely free. Even when you go through that, it's really fascinating. There's tons of good information, but all of these visions and like, imagine if this could happen, none of that is happening yet. So I just wanted to kind of ground us in that for the metaverse. So to me, experiment, look around. I wouldn't be putting my dollars or my thought into doing stuff here yet, because you're not likely to get a return on investment unless you're like a fashion brand doing digital goods or something like that. Okay, the next big trend everyone talks about is influencers. Influencers has been on every trend for next year list for at least 5 years. This is the other thing that cracks me up. Like AR and VR, which is like metaverse, it's another way to talk about the metaverse. AR and VR was on every trend list for probably 10 years, 20 years ago. And then it disappeared when Second Life did, and now it's back, right? So this is why I also kind of about these things, because a lot of the times it's just not, it's not really materializing yet, right? So influencers are always on these lists. And I do think it's one area that businesses can look at to grow their ROI meaningfully. What we see is breaking through the noise online is authenticity. And a lot of the times influencers can reach audiences with more context and more relevant messages than brands can themselves, because frankly, most brands are not good content creators. And when you look at the idea of influencers, to me, it almost goes back to the premise of advertising, right? When TV ads came out, they were called soap operas because soap operas were actually created by Procter & Gamble, and they made them as a way to sell soap. Procter & Gamble sold Ivory soap, so that's why they were called soap operas. The brands tried to create content. Eventually, they realized we're not great at this. What if other people create content and we just throw ads in? It's the same kind of idea, right? Where when social media started, brands said, we're going to make our own content and everyone will love us. Then they realized, you know what? We're really good at making the products and services we sell. We're not an entertainment brand. We don't know how to make good stuff. So now we see more influencer partnerships that are actually using them to use other authentic voices to get the messages across. Influencer marketing, I think, especially in B2B, is a great opportunity right now because it's really underdeveloped there. But it's definitely something you should be thinking about in your industry if you want to break through the noise this year. The next big trend we see coming up is privacy. Now, we could spend like days and days talking about privacy. I bet there's privacy conferences. But the real implication that you need to think about. So there's two big trends we're seeing. One is limitations in data and trackability. The change to a cookieless world falls into this category. And the second thing is privacy legislation. What this essentially means for most businesses is the trackability changes are going to make your online ads more difficult to track, which means all that automated artificial intelligence will not work as well for you. And when it comes to the privacy legislation, it means you're going to have to be a little more respectful about asking for data and what you do with that data. I don't think either of these are bad necessarily, but you want to just prepare for them, especially if you're heavily into advertising, because it can reduce the effectiveness of your online ads. So that's kind of like the high level on where to think about privacy. The current administration in the United States is also looking at adding new privacy legislation as well. So this is an area we're going to see more and more legislation. What's great to me, though, is that when I look at things like GDPR, the California Privacy Rights Act, most online technologies build in features that will make their tools automatically compliant with these. So it's nice because you don't necessarily have to worry about it too much. Okay, our next big trend is short video. We're gonna do some dance videos. Short video, taking the world by storm. TikTok is bigger than Instagram. People spend tons of time on that app. Instagram Reels are also taking off, giving massive visibility. These apps do still skew younger, so you need to think about that. But whether or not you're actually a brand that can create short videos or that it's on your marketing agenda, definitely there's big opportunities for virality, which we have not seen in online marketing in like 15 years. I remember back in the early days of YouTube virality, everyone went gaga over it. And we haven't seen a lot of viral opportunities until now. If you can create great content that resonates with your audience and sells your brand, short videos are a great way to do it. I've been experimenting with short videos more and more, where I'm trying to make a daily, I would say daily-ish, because I don't do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So like 4 days a week, I make a short video, and I've been publishing it on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest. I've been publishing it as a story anyways. I'm putting it in all these places. And what I see is that on average, when I add up the views I'm getting across the board, I'm able to get 500 to 1,000 views on these. And that's with my not so well optimized business content right now. So I definitely think there's big opportunity here. Even if you're not going to create short videos, learn from the format. People want something short, interesting, that's delivered in a way that's interesting to them. And I think a lot of the cleverness of the format and the entertainment value, that's what every single brand can learn from this, even if they're not going to make short videos. Our next trend is LinkedIn. Again, this is maybe a non-trend trend, but LinkedIn is seriously hot right now, and it's only getting bigger. LinkedIn is one of the few social networks that has better numbers every quarter than the last. Their user numbers are growing, their engagement numbers are growing, and their feature set is growing. Their feature set for businesses in Pages is huge. They have events now, they have newsletters. There's so many things that you can do to reach that audience. So whether it's for yourself or your business, LinkedIn is hot and growing. Get on that train as quickly as possible. The next trend is in SEO. When we look at SEO, we go back to this sort of artificial intelligence kind of conversation. The SEO industry has been shaken up over the last few years. When you look at businesses and where their online impact comes from, most businesses do get a fair amount of traffic and sales from search engine optimization. It's an important area. But as Google's been making changes over time, the ads are becoming more prominent. Now we're seeing artificial intelligence and all these things coming into play. So what you need to be thinking about when it comes to SEO is really optimizing for the user experience so that you're getting as much as possible for your users. The next trend I want to talk to you about is job growth. We're seeing tremendous job growth in digital marketing. If you want to future-proof your career, whether you're new to career, mid-career, or late career, get involved in digital. This is where all of the growth is coming from in terms of jobs, employability. So get the skills that you need to prepare. The next trend we see is that the big players are struggling. So when we look at quarterly earning results and annual earning results from the biggest players, which are Facebook and Google, we see both of them are struggling, making layoffs, missing revenue targets, not by a little, by a lot. Part of this is that we're seeing more fragmentation in the industry, right? TikTok is taking some share, presumably Bing is. So one of the things I would say is the big players are still big. They're not going anywhere. And you can see this chart that kind of shows you how big they are, but other players are making a bigger splash. So definitely make sure you're looking for where those unicorn opportunities are. Our next big trend is speed. This is not surprising, but speed matters more than ever. And your responsiveness as a business is vital. Think about how you can make it as easy as possible to connect with people. Use tools like messaging and chat. Text and SMS are increasingly popular in this as well because they just give you better ways to connect with people. Next up, we have data. So again, data is a non-trend, but most businesses still don't use the data they have available to them. Really evaluate yourself. Are you using data to make better decisions? And make sure you put that into the way you're operating your business by building data habits, because that's the best way to make better decisions. Next up, we have optimization. Spend time figuring out how to do things better. I just listened to an interview on somebody who gets millions of views on TikTok, and he said he takes a concept and he may rework that same concept 10 times. The first time it gets 1,000 views, then 5,000, then 10,000, and eventually he's got a winner. but it doesn't happen overnight. So make sure that you're paying attention and always optimizing. And then our last trend is that less is more and the foundations still matter. If you're looking for where your actual results will come from this year, it's so easy to get distracted by shiny objects, but the truth is the foundations of digital marketing, having a good website that works fast, email, social, SEO, ads, that's going to contribute disproportionately to your results. So make sure you're optimizing and using data on your day-to-day in order to do better. So we covered 13 trends in just about 30 minutes. You can, of course, feel free to connect with me online if you'd like to stay in touch. And I'll pass it back to our moderator, Rachel. I know I covered a lot in a short time period.
Absolutely. And we actually have hit the 30 minutes. So thank you so much, Krista, for everything. There's so much stuff in there. I was taking notes as we were going through. So again, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. And thanks, everyone. Feel free to connect with me online.